Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. This week's Sedra in part is Parshas Behar. And the opening pasuk in Behar says, Vayidaber Hashem, God spoke to Moshe Behar Sinai at Har Sinai. And then the Torah proceeds to tell us the laws of Shemitah. Asks Rashi, Ma inyan Shemitah etzel Har Sinai? What do the laws of Shemitah have to do with God speaking to Moshe at Har Sinai? Rashi famously answers, Ma elu, just like these laws that were set at Har Sinai in their general principles and in their details have divine origin and power to them, so too the laws of Shemitah and all the laws of the Torah come from Har Sinai and have the divine imprimatur upon them. But there is a less well-known question, and this is a question posed by Rabbi Yaakov Yosef. Not ma inyan Shemitah etzel Har Sinai, what does Shemitah have to do with the topic that precedes it, but what does Shemitah have to do with the topic that comes right after it in the Torah? The pasuk says, Ki yamuch achicha, if your neighbor becomes indigent, stricken by poverty, and they have to sell their ancestral land, uvago alo hakarov elav, one his close kin should come and redeem him from this situation. What does Shemitah have to do with the poverty of indentured servitude, or having to sell, more precisely, or having to sell their property, and the kinsmen having to come and redeem them? To answer this question, I'm reminded of a joke. It's one of my go-tos. A young lady comes home with her suitor, and the suitor asks permission from the father-in-law, prospective father-in-law, for her hand in marriage. And the father-in-law says, well, how do you plan on earning a living? And he says, well, the Eibishter helfen, God will provide. He says, well, God willing, you're going to have children. How are you going to be able to support children and food and clothing? Eibishter helfen, God will provide. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to get a little older. You have yeshiva tuitions and weddings and bar mitzvahs and all types of expenses. What are you going to do? And he responds, the Eibishter helfen, God will provide. Mazel tov, I give you permission, I give you my blessing to marry my daughter. And he walks off. His wife comes into the room subsequently after this private conversation, having been overheard, and she says, what are you, nuts? You're going to let this irresponsible fellow marry our daughter? And he says to her, what do you mean? He thinks I'm God. In light of that, we're reminded of the central feature of the mitzvah of Shemitah. Shemitah is about believing in God, the Eibishter helfen, that God indeed will provide. That God helps. Because the rule of Shemitah is that when a person goes through the Shemitah year, the land must lie fallow, and they cannot produce the land. And in an agrarian society, there is no parnasa, there is no income during that year. It demands and requires a lot of faith in Hashem that God will provide. And indeed, the blessing in the year following Shemitah is that there will be an abundance of crop. So it's a great statement of emunah in Hashem. Says Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, that the person can feel quite smug about their religious observance. They can feel great pride in the fact that they did have emunah, and legitimately so. They did believe in Hashem, and they let the land lie fallow, relying on the blessing of the following year. And now an indigent person comes by, and an indigent person is in need of help. And you know how we respond? We say, the Eibishter helfen, God will provide. You should have emunah. Just like I had emunah during the Shemitah year, you should have emunah. Says Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, this is an entirely wrong approach. We have to be vigilant about that and not fall into the trap. Rather, we have emunah when it comes to our tzaras. We have emunah when it comes to Hashem providing for us. We have emunah when it is our challenge, our struggle, our difficulty that we are managing the best way possible. But when it comes to another person, when it comes to another human being, when it comes to my neighbor, we don't say the Eibishter helfen. We say, how can I help? We don't rely on the Ribbono Shel Olam. We don't assume that God is going to provide. When it comes to our neighbor, we figure out, what do I have to do? What can I do? What must I do in order to ameliorate his situation? When it comes to our neighbor, we shouldn't be such a tzaddik. We shouldn't be such a righteous person declaring our faith. God will help. Perhaps when it comes to our own situation, we can work on our emunah and bitachon in Hashem. But we shouldn't be a tzaddik on someone else's back. And this is the reason that Shemitah is next to Kiyamu Chachicha. That when we go through Shemitah, and we do find ourselves having lived a year of faith in Hashem, we should not then project it onto another and say, you should also have faith in God. No, the exact opposite. Kiyamu Chachicha, when our neighbor is in trouble, umachar achuzaso, and he has to sell his land, ubago lo hakarov elav, his kinsman must come and redeem him. We live in a society, in a community, in a family structure where we are all interconnected. And when we find a neighbor in need, we must say, not the Eibishter helfen, but how can I help? And the flip side to that is true as well. When we are all in danger, we cannot say, the Eibishter helfen, God will help you, I'll do what I want. But rather, no, what can I do in my actions to protect you and everyone else around me? May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless us with the message of Har Sinai, with the message of Shemitah, and the message of Rav Yaakov Yosef, why Shemitah is connected to Kiyamuch Achicha, our down and indigent brethren. And in this merit, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring us great blessings speedily in our day. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos.